Hello, Margaret Kuhlman here of Soul Astrology. And this new moon is at the very, very beginning of Aries, on the day of the equinox, the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, representing the bursting of bulbs and plants and roots that have been lying dormant in the cold winter and growing underground, bursting into the light of day. So Aries bursts out of the unconsciousness, the oneness of Pisces. And this year it's exactly sextiling Pluto, who moves into Aquarius within 2 days. So the intensity of this shift, this change, this opening to freedom from the restriction of the old laws of Capricorn, and the energy of Mars in Gemini, the very last degrees of Gemini, who goes into Cancer within 5 days, squaring this newness as though, although it is felt and somehow expressed in manifestation, finding it impossible to communicate this, the force of the communication being greater than words can express. So the forward movement, finding difficulty in verbal expression, can start arguments quite inadvertently. A push to move forwards without saying, "Do you mind if I come through?" is liable to start a fight. Fortunately, I think, the Mars trines Saturn, and as it goes into Cancer, our actual emotional sensitivity coming forward, it connects with the Saturn very beautifully, suggesting that we do know that the rules of our expression must include the rest of humanity. So there is a sort of hold back on whether we do charge forward or not. It looks as though it would be a good idea to hold back, not to charge in immediately the impulse arrives inside. And yet, is this not how growth happens in nature? The pressure builds and builds and then bends round the stone or bursts through the earth. Also, fortunately, Mercury is quite close to the new moon, so this is about a time of learning how to communicate this energy, this drive, this passionate impulse. Jupiter has been going over Chiron, so that feeling of being not appreciated, not accepted for who one is, fearfulness in expressing that, has been emphasized, and perhaps we will be dealing with the fallout from that. In fact, Jupiter has been around Chiron for the last month at least. So in all probability, any wounds we may have been harbouring from the past have actually been showing. So we have plenty of opportunity for learning how to say what we really meant, sorting out misunderstandings. And I want to hold very dear to myself that the solution to all of this is Venus on the North Node in Taurus. It's about the love of Earth, the love of people, the realization that in order to be close to someone, one must accept who they are and how they are. That love is actually the way through all this. This is a tight point. If we can expand, if we can reach out, lovingly rather than fearfully. All manner of ills and wounds can be healed. It is interesting that Pluto, as it goes into Aquarius, will be at right angles to the nodal path for humanity. Some essential changes may not be able to manifest at this time, but the quincunx to Mars is telling us that being able to pause, being able to wait, Mars trining Saturn, that is, could be the solution, not to blast out the energy and use it all up, but rather to harbour the energy, to hold it back, so that as it becomes possible to make these changes, we still have the energy to go through with the effort that's required. So I have to say that it looks as though loving the world and loving ourselves, taking care of our bodies, taking care of the earth, eating the right food, sleeping enough, all of this done with gratitude that we can, seems to be the appropriate thing just now, as we are working out how we can be self-sufficient, centered within ourselves, each of us, open-hearted to let the light flow through, preparing ourselves for the future. At the full moon, we see quite a different picture, in that the sun has now reached Chiron, while the moon opposes it from Libra. So we are dealing with the wounds, but in a diplomatic way, the moon being able to deal with things at a distance and therefore contemplating all possible solutions. And Mercury has reached the North Node. So an understanding of that stability that the love introduced in the first 2 weeks. Not only that, but Mercury has as his wings, at his feet as it were, Mars and Saturn, the steadiness in the emotional field. Now, steadiness does not mean being the same all the time. Steadiness in a storm at sea, when all you have is a raft, is the ability to flex all your body to stay on the raft as it tips and turns. Flexibility is required, emotional flexibility. The principles need to be spiritual when Saturn's in Pisces, because any other principles are just liable to be washed away. And Saturn's not going to be reaching Aries until May 25. A little dip back into Pisces during the fall of 25, and in February 26, beginning his couple of years in Aries proper. So we've got Saturn in Pisces for quite a while. He brings with him uncertainty. We are liable to feel pretty unstable outwardly, which is why it's so important to feel stable inwardly. And an inner stability is the ability to respond to how things are now, and now, and now. At the full moon, we will be focusing very likely on the principles of touching the earth, which the indigenous people live by. Just touching the earth, not raping it. On a personal level, it's a definite call to, the phrase is, I think, cut our coat according to our cloth, which is to say, to adjust one's lifestyle to what is available. There's a sensitivity available to us. It's checking in with the body. What do we really need? How much money do we spend eating stuff that is expensive and not particularly good for us? How to actually feed the body really well for a little cost. Listening to the body and its needs and following through, because the body is what we have as spirit to be here. It is easier, generally, I think, to allow life to flow through us when we are well. So staying healthy and fit to whatever degree we can is actually very important. And the second half of the month looks very suitable for sorting those things out, understanding what's required, what works best. I think it is interesting that the next new moon will be at the very, very end of Aries. So this new moon in Aries is the last of the pure drives forward, and the next new moon will be fine for contemplating all that we have seen, achieved, experienced. As I've written in the letter, we have a choice this month. The wave of change is rolling, and our choice is, do we roll in the water or endeavour to stay on the surfboard or the raft? So we can either go with the flow, tumbling in humanity's reactions, or we can work on remaining steadfastly within, engaged with the outside from a central point of stability, weathering the storm, aware of the ride. In the sense of this being a storm at sea, we don't have to focus on where we're heading, on actually trying to get anywhere. We have to focus on remaining open-hearted, light and loving through whatever the times bring us. So let's enjoy the ride. Beloved seeds all, do your best, each with your skills and experience, and remembering all are needed as channels for light. Open your hearts with love. Accept what you find, and the light will flow through, healing in unforeseen ways.